So, if you're in charge of buying hardware for your company, you've probably had a bit of a shock recently. You go to refresh your laptops, you look at the price list, and wow, the costs are just way, way up. Well, let me tell you, you're not going crazy, and it's not a small jump. So let's get into what's really going on.
And yeah, there's the number. If you're looking at quotes from Dell, HP, Lenovo, all the big players, and seeing prices jump anywhere from 15 to 20%, that's real. That's the new normal we're dealing with.
But this isn't just your standard inflation or a typical market shift. Now, this is a really sudden, pretty dramatic spike. So you have to ask, what is the real reason this is happening? What's the hidden force behind it?
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the 2026 price shock, just to get a handle on the problem. Then, we'll get to the really interesting part, AI's insatiable appetite, the surprising culprit here. But most importantly, we're not just going to talk about problems, we're going to talk solutions. We've got two big strategies, buying smarter and optimizing your fleet. And we'll wrap up by looking at how you can turn this whole headache into a real opportunity.
Okay, first up, the 2026 price shock. Now, the thing to understand is that the price of the laptop itself, that's just the symptom. The actual problem goes way deeper. It's all about the tiny, essential components inside that laptop. Specifically, we're talking about memory.
And just look at this chart. This is what's really wild. We're looking at the cost of DDR5 memory. That's the standard RAM in pretty much any modern business PC. Between October of last year and now, the price has exploded. We're talking an 80 to 130% increase. That's not a price bump, that is a rocket launch. And hey, don't just take my word for it. Even the top dogs in the industry are completely floored by this. Jeff Clark, who's the COO over at Dell, said it himself back in November. I have never seen memory costs rise so quickly. You know, when the people who run the companies that make this stuff are shocked, you know it's a big deal. So if the price of memory is going through the roof, what's lighting the fire? Well, it turns out to be a technology that is just dominating every headline everywhere. Artificial intelligence. This slide breaks it down perfectly. You've got these huge chip makers, Samsung, SK Hynix, Micron. They make silicon wafers. Now on one side, you have AI data centers screaming for this super profitable, high-end stuff called high bandwidth memory, or HBM. On the other side, you have us, needing standard business laptops with regular DDR5 RAM. For the chip makers, it's a no-brainer. They're shifting all their production lines over to the high-profit AI stuff, and that's creating a massive scarcity for everyone else.
And here's the absolute key thing to get. This is a zero-sum game. The exact same factories, the same materials, the same engineers are used to make both types of memory. So every single silicon wafer that gets dedicated to a new AI server is one that, literally cannot be used for the laptop that's sitting on your employee's desk. AI is just winning the fight for resources.
And if you're hoping this is just a little blip that's going to blow over, I've got some bad news. All the analysts are pointing to a long-term squeeze. Prices started shooting up in 2025. The whole market is expected to actually shrink in 2026. And this new world of scarce, expensive memory, it's expected to stick around all the way through 2027, maybe even 2028. Okay, enough about the problem. Let's talk about what you can actually do about it. Let's jump into the actionable stuff. Starting with strategy 1, buy smarter. How do you actually get through this market and find some value right now?
And this table right here illustrates the single biggest tip I can give you. For most of your team, just ignore the AI PC hype. Yeah, a brand new machine with a fancy neural processing unit sounds great, but for everyday office work, email, Word, Excel, the performance is basically identical to a model from 1 generation ago. And look at the price difference. You're saving hundreds of euros on every single machine for what is, practically speaking, the exact same user experience.
And there's more you can do. Don't just automatically buy Intel. Check out AMD and Qualcomm. They often have a much better price-to-performance ratio. You can also downsize your SSDs. With cloud storage being so common, most people just don't need a massive local drive. And definitely don't sleep on factory refurbished models. You can save 30 to 50% and still get a full warranty. Oh, and a final pro tip, if you know you need to buy machines in 6 months, put the order in now to lock in today's prices. Now, besides buying new stuff, our second strategy is all about making the most of what you already own. Let's talk about how to unlock the hidden value that's probably sitting right there in your office. It's really a simple 4-step playbook. First, do an audit. Find those powerful machines that are being underused. Second, reassign them. You know that super fast PC in the finance department that's only running spreadsheets? Move it over to a designer who actually needs that power. Third, upgrade what you can. Older DDR4 RAM and SATA SSDs, they're still super cheap on the used market and can easily give an old machine a new lease on life. And finally, why not experiment a little? Try putting a lightweight operating system like Linux on older machines for people who only work in a web browser.
And if you're part of a larger company, there is one more powerful tool you should know about: price protection agreements. This is where you go directly to Dell or HP and negotiate a deal to lock in a fixed price for the next 6 to 12 months. It's basically a shield for your budget against all this market chaos.
So the real point of all this is that you need to reframe the situation. This isn't just a defensive move to cut costs. This is actually an opportunity to build a much smarter, more thoughtful IT strategy for the future.
In this chart right here, this shows you exactly why this is now a strategic conversation. Just a couple of years ago, memory was about 15% of a laptop's total cost. By 2026, it's expected to be nearly a quarter of the cost. When one single component has that much of an impact on your budget, managing hardware isn't just an IT admin task anymore. It needs to be on the C-suite's radar.
So at the end of the day, this isn't really about surviving a price storm. What's happening with AI is forcing all of us to get a lot smarter about how we manage our hardware from beginning to end. It's a real chance to build an IT infrastructure that's more flexible, more efficient, and way more cost-effective for years to come.
And that really brings us to the final, and I think the most important question that you should be asking back at your own company. When it comes to hardware, is your current plan just a reaction to the latest price list? Or is it a deliberate, forward-thinking strategy?